Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is iMac Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over what I believe every single NFL team's final record will be at the end of the 2022 NFL season. I made a preliminary list of all the teams, and then afterwards I looked at all their schedules, edited the list based off of the schedules, and this is the final result. So let's get right into it. First off, we have Texans, Steelers. Both of these teams I think will end up with 3 wins. Houston has a tie, obviously, but I think that they'll finish 3-13-1. Steelers, I think, will finish 3-14. Even if TJ Watt comes back, I don't see that being a major benefit for the Steelers at this point. It's obviously going to win them a few games. I don't think that they'll win a single game until TJ comes back, and then once he does, they'll probably win a couple. But I just don't see the Steelers being a serious team in the near future. As for Houston, they're the worst team in the league. They might get a couple more wins. 4-13. These are the only other 2 teams in the league that I think are as bad as Houston. I think that they'll probably get a couple more wins simply because they play each other, and then they might get a couple wins in other places, but I think they'll probably both finish with 4. At 5-12, we have the Jaguars and the Bears. I think that the Jags and Bears are both looked like they could have potentially had a good season at the beginning of the year, but now we're starting to realize that they're just going to be the same old teams. Jacksonville's schedule is pretty tough. The Bears' schedule is pretty tough. I think that they'll both finish with around 5 wins, maybe 6. But yeah, the Bears always look okay at the beginning of the season because they have an easy start to the schedule, and then they become the Bears. At 6-11, we have the Detroit Lions. They're 1-4 right now, so that means I have them going 5-7 for the rest of the season. I think that's a little bit ambitious, considering they do have a schedule on the harder side, but I think that they'll win all of their games that they should win, like all of the easy wins, and then I think they'll be very competitive towards the end of the season once their offense is more consistent without all of the injuries. 7-10, we have the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Falcons, and the Raiders. Raiders are 1-4, but I think that they'll finish the season 6-6. They have had a generally difficult schedule to start the season, and I think that once Josh McDaniels is fired, I think that they'll start doing very well. The Falcons are 2-3, but they've played a lot stronger than a lot of people give them credit for. I think that they'll be able to finish the season with 7 wins. The Broncos and the Seahawks were the 2 teams everyone was talking about preseason. Mostly the Broncos, not as much the Seahawks, but the Seahawks have been the big surprise for a lot of people. I think both of these teams are 2-3 right now. I think they'll both probably win 5 of their 5. They'll probably go 5-7 to finish off the season. I think that the Broncos' schedule is a little more difficult than the Seahawks' schedule, but the Seahawks are in the NFC, and I think that both of these. I think that because of how consistent the Seahawks defense is and because of how consistent the Broncos defense is, even with the Seahawks defensive issues, their offense will be able to win them games, and even with the offensive issues, the Broncos D will be able to win them games. If the Broncos offense picks it up, they could potentially go into the 8 or 9 win categories, but they're not looking great so far. At 8 wins, we got the Colts, we got the Browns, we got the Saints, we got the Jets, and we got the Bengals. Colts, I would be having them finish 8-1, so 8-8, because they do have the tie with Houston. And then we have the Browns, the Saints, the Bengals, and the Jets at 8-9. The Bengals, I really wanted to give them more wins, but their schedule is just too hard. I even thought 8 wins might have been ambitious because their schedule is a gauntlet. They have a few more games, and then the last 7 games of the season are actually insane. I have no idea how they're going to be able to navigate that schedule. And I seriously don't see the Bengals fighting for a playoff spot in the AFC this season. The Jets are 3-2, which is better than I thought that they would start. I have them going 5-7 for the rest of the season. Their schedule is on the easier side compared to some other teams, but that's for the overall season. They have a lot of their easy games out of the way, which means that the schedule is going to be getting more difficult. And I think that as the season settles in, the Jets are going to. They're not going to be bad, but they're not going to be 3-2 for the whole year. Browns, once Deshaun Watson gets back, they're going to be better. They're currently 2-3, but just like the Bengals, they have a gauntlet of a schedule. It's not quite as bad as the Bengals because the Bengals were number one in the division last year, but their schedule is still extremely difficult, and I think it'll be hard for them to get out of the AFC with a winning record, considering Deshaun Watson won't be back until week 11. Actually, it's 11-week suspension, so he won't be back until week 12. Saints, I have the Saints finishing with 8 wins as well. They are currently 2-3. They've had some injury issues. I think once everyone's healthy, they'll be a lot better. But they still haven't been as good as I thought that they would be, especially week 1. The Falcons game is a little iffy, but I think they're still going to be a very solid football team. At 9-8, we got the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Rams, and the Cardinals. Dolphins and Patriots both have fairly easier schedules for the rest of the season. The Patriots have 6 easy games in a row coming up, Cleveland being the hardest team that they're playing against. As for Miami, they still have quarterback issues. Miami would be a lot higher if they didn't have all of the injuries, but they have a lot of long-term injuries between their quarterback, their secondary, their offensive line. They have a lot of long-term injuries, or potentially long-term injuries. We're not sure exactly about all of them, but because of their injuries, I have them at 9-8. They could finish 10-7 or 11-6, depending on how quickly and how healthy they can get, but I'm not sure yet. Rams and Cardinals, I have both at 9-8. Both have been a little underwhelming so far this season. Both of them have mid schedules. I think that they're both going to be very competitive, but I think that in the end they're going to have a tough time fighting for the NFC wildcard spot. At 10-7, we have the Titans, we have the 49ers, and we have the Packers. Yes, the Packers I have at 10-7. Their offense really hasn't impressed me so far this season. They've had really close. They lost to the Giants. They didn't look great against the Patriots, and their schedule isn't the easiest schedule in the world. I think that 10-7 is a pretty fair record. They're 3-2 right now. I think they'll finish 7-5, unless Aaron Rodgers can click a little bit better with his offense and their defense can be a little more consistent. The 49ers also are 3-2. Jimmy Garoppolo is 3-1 because he did not play in the first game. I wanted to put the 49ers a little higher, but I needed to see a little more from them first. I think that they're going to be a very strong team this year, but they do have a schedule on the more difficult side. As for Tennessee, I have the Titans also going 10-7 again because they were the 1 seed in their division last year, so they're playing Kansas City, they're playing the Bills, and their schedule is on the more difficult end. At 11-6, we have the Ravens, we have the Chargers, we have the Giants, and we have the Buccaneers. The Giants' schedule is dead easy. There's a number. So their schedule is weird because they have a lot of really easy games and a lot of really difficult games. And because of that, I have them winning about half of the games left. They're 4-1, which is better than I expected. I think that they'll finish 7-5. I think that that's more than fair because it is the Giants and it is Daniel Jones, and I think that 11-6 would be great for Daniel Jones. I don't see them winning a lot more games than this, even though they have played well so far. Tampa, very similar situation to Green Bay. The offense hasn't impressed me. Their schedule is a little bit easier because they are in a division with the Panthers and the Falcons, so I am giving them a little bit of a boost. Also, because of the teams that they're playing, so 11-6. The Ravens, tough schedule. I think 11-6 is pretty fair. And for the Chargers, they're in that gauntlet of an AFC West, and they've looked pretty solid so far. I think that they're going to continue to be solid and finish 8-4 for the rest of the year. 12-5, we got the Cowboys and we got the Vikings. I think the Vikings will win their division for the first time in 4 years. At 12-5, I think that Kirk Cousins is going to have his first above-average season in a very long time. So both of these teams are 4-1. I have them finishing 8-4, which I think is pretty fair. The Cowboys' schedule isn't going to be a whole lot harder than it has been so far. I think that they will win some competitive games. And if Cooper Rush stays in, then obviously they're going to finish 16-1. Bills and Eagles at 13-4. Obviously, I'm not going to be picking any teams to be going 17-0, 16-1, or anything like that. The Bills and the Eagles have a slightly easier schedule than the Bills do so for the rest of the season, but they're both on the easier side, and these are also the two strongest teams in the league, in my opinion. So I think that 13-4 is a pretty good score prediction for them. And we have Kansas City at 14-3. Patrick Mahomes is proving that he is still Patrick Mahomes, that he's still going to win every single game that he can, especially in that Raiders game last night with all the penalties against them. So, with that being said, these are my predictions for the final records of every team in the NFL for the 2022 NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.